Now from WCAX, it's Catamount Corner, home of the Catamounts. An inside look presented by Sticks and Stuff. Welcome to Catamount Corner.
Well, happy holidays and welcome into Catamount Corner. It has been a whirlwind of a year for the UVM Athletic Department. We'll get into all that coming up in the final edition of this show here in the calendar year 2025.
A lot to get to tonight, but only one place to start. The UVM men's soccer team will have a new leader this fall as head coach Rob Dow accepted the head coaching position at Penn State last week, wrapping up a stint in Burlington with a lot to remember.
After 9 seasons in charge, Dow leaves the men's soccer program in as good a spot as it's ever been. 1 season removed from a national championship, an America East double this year, the most wins by a coach in program history, and 11 of the program's 15 NCAA tournament wins in just the last 4 years. In his first 4 years, Dow's Cats claimed at least a share of 2 regular season conference championships and made an appearance in the America East title game in the spring of 2021, but would have to wait until that fall to make his first NCAA tournament appearance at the helm. Their first round loss would mark the end of the first chapter of his tenure, and the following year would be the opening page of the second. The Catamounts won a pair of thrillers in the opening 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament in 2022 before running UCLA off of frigid Virtue Field in round 3, setting up just the second quarterfinal appearance in program history, one they'd lose to eventual national champion Syracuse 2-1. The following year, a similarly strong run, as Vermont downed 12th seeded UCF in round 2 before falling to top 5 West Virginia in the 3rd round, marking a second straight year with a 1-goal loss in the tournament, but once again, showing Vermont could hang with anyone. But the following year, spoiler alert, the back-to-back close losses would prove to be worth it and then some. Underdogs no more.
I think everyone's looking at Vermont right now and saying these underdogs, watch out for Vermont, but let's shorten that up and just call us dogs.
The first national title in program history, with no shortage of drama, was also the first national championship in America East history. A month later, a parade packing thousands on Church Street for 2 hours of celebration and a lifetime of memories. And in his final year in charge, the 2025 Catamounts completed an undefeated regular season with a conference tournament crown. And while it ended short of their goal of going back to Cary, the Cardiac Cats gave fans one more late equalizer before falling to Hofstra in overtime in round 2.
UVM announcing their new hire this afternoon, and while it will not be the most recent associate head coach Brad Cole, it will be a familiar face nonetheless. Adrian Dubois is returning to Catamount Country after a 3-season stint as associate at San Diego State. Now, Dubois was on Dow's staff from 2019 through the 2022 season, serving in that role as associate head coach each of the past 3 years. We spoke with athletic director Jeff Shulman this afternoon about the hire. He pointed out that even 2 years removed, Dubois had a big hand in that national title run last fall, and he's excited to hand the reins over to him.
He's been part of the Catamount soccer family. He was our associate head coach for 5 years, was really instrumental in recruiting and developing many of the players who helped lead us to the national championship, and some who are still on our team now. He's an outstanding person. His values align with UVM and our athletic departments. He cares deeply about our student athletes' well-being in every respect, academically, as citizens, in terms of their health and their personal development, and obviously their development as athletes. So, these searches, each one of them has their own sort of unique personality, and this was no exception. But I think we've landed in a great place, and I think our program is going to be in great hands.
Well, now we go from one UVM program with a national title to its name to another, of course, talking about skiing.
Yeah, it has been a dream start to the preseason for the Cats this winter. Plenty of the white stuff all over the ground in our region. We'll start off on the Nordic side of things. Cats are prioritizing their health this year. Sickness taking a devastating toll on the roster last year. That included All-American Haley Brewster. She missed her entire true senior season last year. She is back to give it another go-round this winter, but Vermont is otherwise looking to a lot of younger and less experienced athletes to help the Cats earn points at Carnivals this year. Folks like Annie McColgan and Finn Sweet having graduated. Vermont will be especially motivated this winter after failing to capture the EISA championship for the first time in 5 years last year.
That was a big learning experience, but I think we all came out on top of that, and I think we're ready to kind of put Vermont back on the top nationally wise too.
I think just tuning little things up. I think we've got the big training underneath us, just like being confident and going out as a team. I think we have a strong team, so I think we got it as long as we keep the sickness away.
There is redemption in their eyes for sure. You know, the guys really struggled with sickness last year. You know, they had a really healthy fall. They are in really good shape, and you can tell that they want to prove to the ski world who they are.
The Alpine roster similarly looks very new. Magnus Bergestyren and Sidney Timmerman will both look to lead the way and hope that some of the underclassmen can chip in, while veterans make a leap as well. The Nordic team's going to get their first competitive action at Mount Van Hovenberg on January 4th. The Alpine racers, though, they're not going to get to go until January 16th at Sugarloaf, but both sides will also get their first chance to host since 2019. Stowe and Craftsbury will host the UVM Carnival. That's going to be February 6th and 7th. Well, the swimming and diving team has 3 graduate students on the roster this season, one of whom is Natalie Schick.
Yeah, she joined the Cats for 1 season in the pool after an undergraduate career in the Big Ten, and life as a student athlete in her graduate program, it's pretty busy.
After her time at Rutgers came to a close, Schick shifted her focus to her postgraduate life centered around her academics, casting a wide net with her applications, but with an eye on Burlington.
I really wanted to come here, and I actually looked at coming here for undergrad, and it didn't end up working out. And when I found out I got into the program here, it was just like a great fit academically, and the girls were super nice, and I'd already come on a visit, and it was just felt like the right decision for me.
She's pursuing a PhD in neuroscience, a track that takes about 5 years on average to complete, and a track that she's had her eyes on for a long time.
I was always interested in neuroscience, and I thought I wanted to do kind of like neuropsychology or like a doctor in neuroscience. Then I kind of realized I didn't really want to go to med school, and I fell in love with research throughout my undergrad career, did a bunch of different things, and it was like an easy no-brainer.
Schick capped off her Rutgers career with a top 10 time in program history in the 100 back at the Big Ten Championships, and has continued strong performances into this season, setting a new UVM varsity record in the 100 back her last time out. And head coach Jerry Conoyer says her presence both in the pool and the locker room has been a positive one.
Natalie's been a great fit for our program. As a leader, coming in as a graduate student with a heavy workload in her studies, and they really come in and stepping into a sport that she really loves, and to coming into a program as a mid-major, coming from a Power 4 conference that she was in. You wouldn't know that because she's she has a lot of humility. And she's always willing to learn and listen. Even though we do things a lot different here than what she's accustomed to, she's really fit into our program, and I appreciate her as a coach.
We had another grad transfer and a couple other graduate students, so that made it easier, and then everyone has just been super welcoming and supportive, and my family's been super supportive, and the people in my cohort have been too, so it's just been like a great environment and community to be a part of.
Balancing her academic and athletic workload is a lot, taking up the majority of each day's 24 hours.
It's been really hard, but the coaches have been super supportive and the teammates have been super supportive, and it's been, you know, I'm just kind of busy from like 5 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day.
But she wouldn't have it another way.
But I love what I'm doing at school and in the pool, so it's pretty easy.
All right, coming up after the break, we will go around the horn and catch up with the winter teams in action.
And still to come, we wrap up 2025 with a year in review of all things UVM here in Catamount Country. Stick with us. Welcome back as we reach the end of the calendar year. That means most of the winter sports are at their midway points.
Yeah, let's go around the horn and check in with those teams in action right now. And let's start off with the men's hoops team. The Catamounts downing Merrimack on Sunday 66-59. And Pepperdine the weekend before 65-56. That is 2 straight games the Catamounts have held opponents to under 60 points, the only 2 times they've achieved that mark this season. And it comes at a good time as a strong Siena team is at Patrick Gym tonight as one of just 3 non-con games left before America East play begins.
UVM women's hoops team was rolling right along until they weren't. Tuesday morning, playing without Kat Gilby for the third straight game. Cats were in a 40-minute battle with Holy Cross. They saw the lead slip away in the final minute. Nicola Prieda's attempt at the buzzer just a little bit short. The Cats now 9-4 on the year. They will wrap their 4-game road trip down in Philly on Saturday as they visit Drexel.
The men's hockey team got a weekend split at top 20 BU the first weekend of December, but in their last game for a couple weeks were blanked 3-0 by Army on Saturday night. Head coach Steve Weidler was not happy with his team's effort, he told us, and said it's on him and the Cats have to find a way to be more consistent. He also mentioned their now 2-week break comes at a pretty convenient time to refocus.
The women's hockey team wrapped up the 2025 portion of its schedule the first weekend in December. Cats were swept at home by Holy Cross 1 week after earning a split with a top 5 ranked Cornell team, winning the program's first top 5 game since 2022. Vermont's going to return to action January 2nd against local rival Dartmouth after a 4-week break. That'll be a split weekend, Friday's game at the Gut, Saturdays down in Hanover.
Well, over a half dozen members of the swimming and diving team escaped the cold and went down to Florida this past weekend for the Open Water Championships. Katie Lester led the team with a 57th place finish overall. The Cats will return to action at Rhode Island in mid-January.
The track and field team opened its indoor season on December 6th with meets in Massachusetts, which included a number of PRs and strong days, including from local athletes like Riley Garrow, James Silwick, and Sienna Stanley. They're going to return to action on January 10th. All right, coming up, we sit down with UVM Athletic Director Jeff Shulman for our annual State of the Department conversation. That's next.
Well, we are 2 weeks away from the new year here in Catamount Country, Jack.
Yeah, but before we turn the page to 2026, we sat down with Athletic Director Jeff Shulman for our annual State of the Department conversation.
Thanks so much for taking the time to join us, Jeff. Obviously, a lot has happened for the UVM Athletic Department over the course of the last year and, frankly, over the last couple of weeks. So we're going to start off with men's soccer. Another great season where the team was #1 in the country at the end of the year. They were undefeated until the NCAA tournament, and then maybe thrown into a little bit of flux. When did you first know that Coach Dow was considering leaving? And what was the process like from there?
Well, it's certainly not unusual to when you have an exceptional coach with the kind of national success that Rob and our program have had, that other schools inquire. Rob and I have always talked openly about when other opportunities presented themselves, and I've always worked really hard to make sure that he really felt valued. But ultimately, people have to make choices that they believe are in their best interest. Obviously, it's not easy to see a coach like Rob leave, but we respect his decision and certainly wish him well.
Just taking a look at the broader scope of the college athletics world, the House settlement. You are one of the schools that has opted into that program. What can you kind of tell the fans about that, how it might affect athletic operations going forward here at UVM?
Yeah, well, the vast majority of Division I schools have opted into the House settlement, the terms of the House settlement, and that just provides us the flexibility to better support our student athletes through additional scholarships and through potentially revenue sharing and institutional NIL agreements. And so, like a lot of Division I schools, we're looking at the changing landscape and trying to make good decisions about how we position our department.
What can you kind of tell us about the financial implications of that?
Like a lot of other schools, we're still working through what all of the financial implications are for us. But there's no question that the cost of maintaining competitive programs is continuing to go up. I'm constantly working with our coaches and with senior leadership on campus to make sure that we have the resources and the support that we need to have the kinds of success that we want.
There is a couple of kind of very big name donors that have passed away within the last year or so. Barry Stone, but obviously Rich Tarrant as well, and his name is attached to this facilities project. What can you tell us about any progress that's been made?
Losing Rich Tarrant was a massive loss, not only for UVM athletics, but the entire university and the community and the state. That project is something that I'm working on every single day. It remains a top priority, not just for me, but for senior leadership at the university. I'm more optimistic than I've been in a long time about our ability to get the project done.
There is a new building that's propped up next to Virtue Field. What can you kind of tell us about that building?
That building will support not only Virtue Field, but Moulton Winder Field and the LeBac Track and Field Complex. It'll have permanent concessions and permanent restrooms and game day locker rooms.
Has there been any conversations about an expansion of Virtue Field?
Yes, we are looking, and we're talking to the Green and others in the community about how we could expand capacity at Virtue Field. But like all of our facilities, we wanted to do it in a way that fits Vermont, and who we are.
But what are some of the goals that you hope that this athletic department can achieve both on and off the field in 2026?
You know, at a 30,000-foot level, my focus is on continuing to have an athletic program and support our student athletes so that they can be successful in the classroom and on the fields of play. Obviously, the facility project is something that's a major priority for me and for our department, and I think for the entire university. But I think we have a lot to be proud of, and college athletics is changing almost on a daily basis, and we're not burying our heads in the sand. We know that we've got to keep pace. We want to do it in a way that aligns with our history and our values and what we think Vermonters want from an athletic program. But I'm couldn't be more proud of our 460 student athletes and our coaches and our staff. And I'm just looking forward to another great year in Catamount country.
Thanks so much for taking the time, Jeff.
Happy to do it.
All right, coming up next, it is time for our year in review here in Catamount country. We will relive the last 12 months after this. Welcome back. Well, we're just over 2 weeks away from the end of the calendar year.
Yeah, but before we put 2025 in the books, we're taking one last look at the year that was here in Catamount country.
2025 started off with a bang for UVM. Fresh off their national title run last fall, the UVM men's soccer team celebrated in style. A parade through the streets of Burlington, culminating in a rally atop Church Street, drew thousands of fans to the Queen City and set the stage for what UVM hoped would be another excellent year. On the snow, the Cats had their moments. Justine Clement, Finn Sweet, and Annie McColgan all earned second-place finishes at NCAAs. Vermont was runner-up at ESAs and fifth at NCAAs. James Silwick and Meg Ann Gilmore led the indoor track team at America East Championships with wins in the mile. The men finished seventh and the women eighth. Despite another strong showing from Hallie Laney and Ella Church, among others, the swim and dive team wasn't quite able to defend its America East title, finishing third down in Lexington, Virginia. On the ice, the men's hockey team again showed signs of progress last winter with 4 wins over eventual tournament teams. They even got a vote in the National USCHO poll in mid-February. But an 8-game losing streak to end the season put a bit of a damper on the optimism that they had built with an underclassmen-heavy roster. Women's hockey had a tough time regaining their momentum as they had 12 losses by a single goal. Cats had 4 ranked wins between January 11th and February 22nd, though, and got an OT winner from CC Delorier to down Holy Cross in the first round of the Hockey East tournament. They had second-seeded BU on the ropes in the quarterfinals, too, before dropping that contest in overtime. On the hardwood, injuries ravaged UVM men's hoops. Shamir Bogues missed significant time, and TJ Long missed the vast majority of the season as the Cats stumbled to their fewest wins in a full year since 2014-15. Vermont found their footing in league play, narrowly finishing as runner-up to Bryant during the regular season, but a tough night against Maine in the America East semis handed the Cats just their second conference tournament loss since 2018 and denied UVM its first ever 4-peat. The women, however, were able to finish the job. Led by seniors Anna Olson and Bella Vito, along with a strong junior and redshirt junior class, the Cats were right near the top of the league standings all year. Though they dropped a couple road games in conference to finish 1 game back of Albany, there was no question who the best team in the conference was come March. UVM blasted UMBC and Bryant to advance to their 3rd straight America East Championship, then seized control in the 3rd quarter en route to a 62-55 victory at Albany and their 2nd tournament title in 3 seasons. Playing at second-seeded NC State in the first round of the NCAA tournament, Kira Hansen went off for 21 points, and UVM led most of the 2nd quarter before the Wolfpack seized control down the stretch. But Vermont firmly establishing themselves as a player once again. Back outside as the snow melted in the spring, Rachel Barba claimed a conference title in the 800, and UVM women's track and field finished 7th at America East, while the men finished 8th. Emma Wabsher also advanced to NCAAs in the javelin. It was a tough year for both lacrosse teams. The UVM women were eliminated from conference tournament contention before their final game, though they did win that finale over UMBC down in Baltimore to finish on a good note. The Vermont men had their moments, including a 16-12 win over defending conference champ Bryant in late March, but they were plagued by inconsistency and saw their season come to a close with a loss at Binghamton in the regular season finale. It was the first time the Cats failed to qualify for the America East semis since Chris Fife's first year in 2017. After the summer break, Vermont had a strong fall season. The cross-country team took a sweep in their season opener and at the Equality Invitational, while the women won the Fall Foliage Invite as well. The women were 4th in America Easts, while the men finished 6th. And all 3 of the fall ball sports teams advanced to their conference championship games. Field hockey followed up its conference tournament title with their first ever share of the regular season crown in 2025. Sophia Lafranc, Mirla Vondrugger, Verilyn Niehaus, and Kate Pfeiffer and her staff all won major awards. UVM survived a thriller of a conference semifinal by downing Maine in a shootout, but conceded their only goal of the tournament to UNH in double overtime of the final to fall just short of a second straight title. The women's soccer squad started off a little slow, but found their footing in league to earn the second seed in the conference tournament. Kylie Carafoli was Conference Goalkeeper of the Year, and all-region honorees Lauren DeGroot and Sydney Remington helped Vermont rally in the conference semis to down Bryant and reach their first conference championship since 2021. The Cats would jump out to a 2-0 lead in that final, but a Maine rally would force a shootout, with Vermont seeing their season end at the spot for the second straight season. The UVM men's soccer team, however, did claim the conference crown. The defending national champs started and ended the regular season ranked number 1 in the country as they reached NCAAs without a loss. The Cardiac Cats once again lived up to their nickname with 6 game-tying or winning goals in the 84th minute or later this year. They needed 2 of them to edge New Hampshire in the America East semis, but the conference title game against Bryant was a little less dramatic as UVM went back-to-back in the league. Vermont put an astounding 13 players on the all-conference team, with Nico Lobus, Nick Lockerman, Nicholas Hersig, and the coaching staff all earning major awards. UVM was the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, but after 3 years in a row of upending seeded teams on their home fields in the round of 32, Vermont suffered the same fate, falling to Hofstra 3-2 in overtime. The Cats' first loss in more than a year, putting an end to their reign as national champs, and that would turn out to be Rob Dow's final game as Vermont's head coach as well. He's headed to Penn State to be replaced by former associate head coach Adrien Dubois, who returns from San Diego State. A successful year for the Cats, but certainly a lot of questions to be answered as we head into 2026.
All right, that's a wrap here on Catamount Country. Michael's got to get over to Patrick, the men's basketball team getting ready to take on Siena. That should be a really good one, and obviously we're very interested in seeing how Adrien Dubois can come in here and maybe kind of try and keep some of the guys on this roster, bring in some guys from elsewhere, and see if that men's soccer program can kind of stay where they've been the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, that'll do it for the final Catamount Corner here in the calendar year 2025. He's Michael Dugan. I'm Jack Fitzsimmons. Keep it right here on WCX for all things UVM all year long.